started with our first product, which is the Innbeauty Face Glaze Highlighting Gel Cream. This is definitely similar to the Say Glowy Super Gel, but if you're wondering what the difference is, the Say one is much more gel-like, thin, watery consistency. This one is a little bit more lotiony, and I feel like the glow is slightly more toned down. They do give a very similar amount of glow though, a nice like natural amount where the shimmer is nice and fine, so it's not like gonna enhance texture. So neither of them are very texture enhancing. This one is definitely more of a lotiony texture. So I'm gonna take this and mostly just work it on my high points, because even though this isn't super texture enhancing, if you do have a lot of texture and you don't want to risk enhancing it at all, just keep these glowy products sort of on the high points and avoid the areas where you have extra texture. So for me, it's just this area around my chin. I have a lot of acne scars, so if I do put it on my chin, it's always right on the center, but I will just avoid that area as a whole. These types of products into the warmer months are so pretty because they give you that glow without necessarily having to use like a dewy foundation or anything too heavy feeling. That's what I really like about this one as well. It's not too heavy. Now that it is warmer though, my skin is getting more oily. I'm sweating more. So I wanted to pull out the Surratt primer. This is their Perfectionniste primer, which I have used before. This isn't super new to me. This is such an interesting texture. I remember really liking it when I tried it in my Surratt video. It's this lotiony texture, but once you put it on, do you guys remember that Becca had a primer that was like a mattifying primer? And it was kind of like the texture of glue, like silicone glue almost. Like it's very, not really thick. It just feels dry, I guess, when you're putting it on, but it really just like smooths out your pores and really does help mattify. So it's not necessarily like a super smoothing feeling primer. It's not a glowy primer. It's that in between like gluey consistency almost. It's making it sound bad, but I have not tried this with the foundation I'm going to use, so let's just hope that it goes together. Although you definitely don't have to use two primers, it's really great, especially if you have combo skin. I'm putting this more mattifying, smoothing one on the center of my face and then keeping the glowy one towards the outside. I'm actually going to do a little bit of corrector before we do foundation. This is a new one from Flower Beauty. These are their Bright Eyed Under Eye Corrector. They sent me, I think they have like 4 or 5 shades of these, which is great for color correcting. This is the lightest shade though, called Light, which is just this very light peachy color. I've been playing around with these a little bit. I like how they come in this little crayon form. As you can tell, it's not the most pigmented sort of corrector, but having very fair skin, I actually feel like it's the perfect shade. Definitely quite creamy, but doesn't feel too emollient. I'm not sure how this goes with like concealer, if it's gonna be very creasy. We'll have to continue testing it, but just as like a first impression, I feel like it does a really good job at correcting and feels nice and light. It's also just something so fun about having a little crayon and being able to just draw on your face. Next for our base, I wanted to use this foundation. This is from Florasis, which is a C Beauty company. I have tried one of their other cushions, but this, I don't think it's the same formula. It's definitely a different shade that matches me better. I believe it's a different formula. It's the Flawless Jade Breathable Longwear Cushion Foundation, and this is the shade N20 Shimmering Lotus, which is a really nice like yellowy olive shade almost. I swatched this. It is a bit dark for me, but I think with the concealer we're gonna use, it should even out. But it just comes in this cute little cushion. This is from their Nomadic collection, I think, so it has this like faux leather on the top. Really gorgeous. I do like it with the little sponge that they give you, but I just want to use a brush today, so I'm gonna use my favorite Rose Ink foundation brush. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of the product on my skin. If I remember, this is quite pigmented, so you really don't need a ton of it. Oh yeah. And I'm just gonna start blending this in. Hopefully you can see it has that nice, like definitely more of a warm olivey undertone, but I don't feel like it pulls too yellow or orange. After it is on my face though, I'm gonna go in with my sponge and blend this even further. Okay, something really weird is going on around my nose and on my lip. Like it's not blending out. Like I said, I did not try this primer with this foundation. I think that might be the problem. Okay, I just wiped all of that primer off, so we're just gonna start fresh again and hopefully it will work this time. Okay, that looks 10 times better. We're not getting any like sticking or pilling. Foundation is really pretty. It has this like satiny matte finish and I feel like it just is very skin-like. I'm just gonna use my sponge for this side. I'm using a very small amount of product too, just like one dip with my sponge. I feel like it's just like perfecting my skin really easily. Maybe the shade isn't quite as dark as I remembered. I'm glad we rescued the foundation situation. I'm gonna go back in with the little puff that it comes with. These, I feel like this kind of application gives you a lot of coverage. So I'm just gonna do this on some, I feel a blemish coming up over here, really hurts. I'm just gonna do it where I want a little bit of boosted coverage. See, look at that. It's just like full coverage with this. All right, so Florasis Cushion Foundation, gorgeous on. If you are similar skin tone to me, the shade might be a little bit dark, Shimmering Lotus, but has a really great undertone. Do still have that corrector on, so it's good. I really wanted to talk about this concealer. This is from Surratt as well. This is actually one of their newer products. I don't think I ever fully talked about this. This is their Dewdrop Concealer to go with their Dewdrop Foundation, which is really beautiful. I do have a full face of this brand, by the way, if you were curious. But this is like a little sponge tip concealer. This shade number 1, I wanted to talk about this. It's so light, it's almost like a white concealer. So you just push up the product, and this is like really pigmented. I find you only need a little bit. Like, look how light that is. Love that. I'm just gonna go with my sponge and blend this out. I do find this quite like fast drying and almost can be a little bit sticky. So I just make sure to apply it and blend it out immediately. But because it is that like almost stickier consistency, I feel like it lasts on the face really well. I'm also gonna do a little bit in the highlight areas just because our foundation is a tad dark, but this concealer is so light. I know this is more of a luxury formula, but if you're looking for a super light concealer, this one is beautiful. And hopefully you can tell how it really brightened my face, and I feel like the foundation's matching a little bit better now. So really beautiful brightening shade. Not like a huge fan of these sponge tip applicators, but I feel like it actually works quite well with this formula. Before we get to setting everything, I do have some cream products. First are these new blushes from Flower Beauty, which are the Ultralight liquid blushes. I have tried the highlight version of these. It was just too dark for me, so I was actually using that as a blush. They have 2 shades here. They look pretty warm, but we'll see how they look like on the skin. So we have Poppy and Toasty. Another product with a sponge tip applicator. Guessing if you squeeze this, it should eventually come out, right? Oh, okay. There's actually a little off-on twisting thing. I guess that's nice because then if you wanted to close it, it's not gonna like accidentally squeeze out product in your bag or anything. Okay, there it is. Actually looks really pretty. Oh, hello pigment. This is like a straight up orange shade. If you have warm skin, like warm medium skin, and you love an orange blush or deep skin, this is gonna be honestly beautiful on you. Not my personal favorite shade. So next, let's hope that this one looks good. This is Toasty, which looks like more of a mauvey pink. It almost looks like it might be a bronzer for me. These are blushes. These are so warm. That is actually like too warm for me to even use as a bronzer. Okay, maybe they have more shades of these and they just like sent me some weird ones. I'm gonna take like a little bit of this just to add some warmth and see how this formula blends out. They look really pigmented. I'm also gonna use my foundation brush. Hopefully that'll tone it down a little bit. Oh, okay, bronzer. It's definitely warm, but I'm not hating it as a bronzer. Okay, so these were some interesting shades. I do not hate this Toasty shade as a bronzer. It is still like a lot warmer than something I would prefer, but interesting formula. I'll have to check out some new shades because I do really like how they blend it out. Now let's set. I don't have a new powder. I'm just gonna use my 100% pure bamboo blur. I've been loving this one. It's so mattifying. The Surratt concealer is almost like a self-setting concealer as well. Like I don't feel like it creases as quickly as some other concealers once I apply them. I do always smooth it out, but I feel like it stays pretty well. So I just set my more oily areas with that powder. I want to go in and add some glow, so I'm going to use the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Ethereal Light, which is this cool white, just on a fluffy brush because I was not really expecting the base to be this matte. So I'm going to add a little bit of glow. My plan was to add the glow with the primer, but that didn't go as planned. So we're improvising. Oh my gosh. This powder with that foundation and concealer, it looks so smooth and airbrushed. Kind of crazy. I don't usually use this as a setting powder either because it can be a little bit, just a little bit too shimmery for me, but it's looking really pretty with the more matte foundation. All right, what other fun stuff do we have? So I actually mentioned this a couple videos back. This is the Smashbox Halo palette, Sculpt and Glow face palette. Now there's 4 different shades in here. You can find these on Ulta. I did mention this. I did not use it though, so I kind of want to give it a go. There's a bronzer, 2 blushes, and also a highlight. Actually, I think we might have tried the highlight and it was a bit too dark, but we will try out the other products. So let's go in with this bronzer, which doesn't look half bad after that Flower Beauty blush incident. So let's see. This is nice. It's giving me a nice bronzy look. I don't feel like it's pulling too orange, although it is definitely on the warmer side for bronzers. Getting really hot, so I might be reacting to one of these products, probably one of the base products. Anyway, so there's also these 2 blush shades. This one actually looks really pretty. It's like a cool pink. I'm gonna take this on my Flower Beauty blush brush. This is a matte shade. Looks like a really nice cool undertone though. These aren't super pigmented, which actually is quite nice. Rather build something up. Really like this blush shade, so pretty. I'm gonna take this slightly more peachier shade, more on the backs of my cheekbones, and sort of blend that in with the bronzer. Really fun to do like multiple shades of blush. You get this really dimensional look. I usually put the darker or peachier one towards the back, and then like the really cool toned or light shade closer to the cheek. And since I already know that highlight is too dark, I'm gonna go in with my Mercier Matte Radiance powder, which is one of my favorite highlights. Very finely milled, so it gives you like a glow without being super, like the actual shimmer glitter particles aren't very big, so it just looks like a glow and not like you have a highlight on. So this is really pretty. It has potential. I wish that the highlight was like super just lighter, because it is like a darker champagne that casts dark on my skin. But those 2 blush shades are really pretty, and I think the bronzer is decent as well if you like these like all-in-one face palettes. I do also have the Sephora contour, which is newer to me. I've been loving this. I was gonna use this, but I feel like we just have so much cheek product on right now. We don't necessarily need it, but this is a gorgeous, very true cool contour if you're looking for it, and relatively inexpensive. All right, so I just filled in my brows off camera with the NYX Micro Brow. I did want to show you this iconic London brow product though. This is the Tint and Texture Brow Perfecting Gel. I usually don't like tinted brow products, but this one has a very small little brush, and I think it is one of those that has like fibers in it, but the fibers are very small. So like I don't really see them on my brows, and this shade is really nice. It's called Ash Blonde. So I just like to sweep this in the brows. This is a really good one for adding like thickness and texture. I don't think I could ever just like wear something like this on my brows without filling them in, because I have very light brows. It never really looks that good, but if you already have really nice brows, I think this you could just wear on its own. Okay, so brows are mostly done. I did also pull out this Pixie eyeshadow. This is the shade Chiffon, which is this really pretty light pink. And these aren't like the most pigmented, but I do find it's really pretty just as like a brow bone highlight. So I'm just gonna pop those right on the arch of my brow. It just has like such a pretty reflect. And then I'm also just gonna take this right into the inner corner just to add some brightness before we go in with our next eyeshadow. This has a really pretty shimmer to it, but the base color isn't super strong. I think it looks really pretty like on the brow bone how I used it, but it's not like a super pigmented liquid eyeshadow. If that's what you're expecting of it, you'll probably just be disappointed by it, but I think there is some nice ways to use it. Next, I want to pull out these Surratt Souffle eyeshadows, which are these like water-based gel-like shadows. I did a short on these. If you saw it, they have this like, it's almost like jello eyeshadow. They're really fun, so I wanted to use them again. I do have 3 shades here. I have this like gray that shifts gold. I have this purple one here, and then I have this more rosy tone. Kind of feeling rosy today because the skin, like the vibe of the makeup is already a little bit warmer. So this one is the shade Rose Revie. I don't know if you can tell when I'm dabbing my brush into it, like it's so fun to use actually. So I'm just gonna coat my brush in the color, and then I'm going to lay it down. I think we might just use this one shade all over the lid. And these are kind of sheer at first, really pretty wash of color, and they are buildable, but you definitely want to make sure that your first layer is dry first, or else they can get very patchy. Now that this side is dry, I'm going to build it up a little bit more. See, on that second layer, you're getting much more full pigment. Oh, also I forgot, I should have done this for this video because I'm getting a little bit of patchiness. These work if you don't have any product on your eyelid a lot better, like I had concealer and powder. So I just laid down the color on the lid And then I think we're gonna add a little bit into the crease. I'm gonna go into the Colourpop Sailor Moon collab palette and take this light peachy shade, which is called Schoolgirl. I definitely should have done this before the other eyeshadow, but I'm just going to dab it into the crease and then blend it out. Yes, that is looking a lot better. Now that the eyes are kind of sorted out, I have these super fun eyeliners from Make Beauty. So they came out with these felt tip liners in all of these very fun shades. I'll pull out a few of my favorites, but I'll also put the swatches on the screen here because I do have swatches of all of the shades. The ones I've been using the most, first off, these are such a fun way to like add color to your everyday makeup in more of a subtle way. And I would say, especially if you are similar in coloring to me, black eyeliners can be a little bit harsh. Like I've always loved brown, but these are also really good options like a gray. This one is so fun. It's just like a really nice muted gray, especially with the Natasha Denona Xenon palette, full gray moment. This one is so pretty as well. I'll put the shade names up, but this one is a maroon one. I really want to try the Maybelline mascara in burgundy, but I can't find it. So this with that would be beautiful, but just this with a brown mascara. Like you don't even need eyeshadow because these are so beautiful on their own. They also have this really deep emerald green. Basically any of the deep shades that are like almost black but not quite have been my favorites. But they do also have a brown one, a black one. The navy blue is gorgeous, and then the rest of these are just these super fun pastels. Now, I really like brush tip liners. These are felt tip, which I find a little bit harder to work with, but I do find they apply the pigment nice and evenly. I've tried almost all of these shades. I had a little bit of an issue with this one. I just feel like the ink isn't really like getting to the tip of it. It's applying a little bit patchy. I found with these that if you try to like layer it immediately, it is going to pick up what you already laid down. So make sure you're just doing an even like sort of application and then letting it dry if you do go back in. But I would say try to get it in one go because they can be slightly finicky in that way, but I've really only found it with this shade. I just wanted to warn you about the other ones, I guess. I'm trying to think if we should do, ooh, maybe like a blue accent, but then, because I feel like this one would go good, and then we could do like an accent of this. Even though this one has been a little bit patchy, I kind of want to show you this one. I don't know if you can tell with that application. This one, it just seems dry, and I've been storing it upside down, so I don't know. This one just seems to be like a dud or something. Like it still works, but it's definitely drier than the other ones. I'm gonna go over that with a Charlotte Tilbury deep purple shadow just because it applied patchy on me again. I don't know why I decided to use the one that was dried out. I just really love this shade. The makeup is just not looking great today, and that's unfortunate because I'm filming it. But let's go in with this light blue shade now. I'm gonna do this one as a little accent under the wing. My camera just got super cool. See, the blue is nice and even. It's just that burgundy shade. All right, at least I have a really good mascara to talk about, which is from Sweed Beauty. This is their Pro Lash Lift Mascara in the shade Dark Brown. Love a brown mascara. You know how picky I am with mascaras. I love my Maybelline Sky High mascara. This one is beautiful. The brush is very interesting. It's actually almost completely smooth. Besides one side of the brush, which has like little tiny spiky bristles, and it applies quite a lot of product, but it's actually beautiful and it does not flake or smudge, which I love. I'm not exactly sure if you're supposed to like apply with that end. I feel like that gives you too much product. I've just been applying it with the bristles and it looks good. So let me show you. See, it is super lengthening, very thickening, and just a gorgeous mascara, honestly. I love that a good mascara can kind of just salvage any look, and this one is so good. So such a surprise hit from a brand I had not heard of before. Onto the lips, I also have a new brand to me for the lipstick. First, look at this packaging. This is from the brand Queen Musia, and these are their matte cream lipsticks made in Italy, and this is the shade Becky Syrup, which looks like it's a nice neutrally cool tone, like rosy lipstick. Definitely quite neutral. Reminds me of Merit Beauty Baby a little bit. I think to pair with that, I'm gonna use the NYX Line Loud in the shade Fierce Flirt. Now let's try on this lipstick. Seems like really nice matte formula. Ooh, definitely quite thick and pulls a little bit warm on me, but like in a nice way. Like this is like a neutral tone that pulls warm on me, but I think is very wearable. I love how smooth and sort of like plush it looks. Really, really gorgeous. feels super lightweight, not sticky, not really sinking into my lines or anything. Very interesting formula. I did have a lot of other shades. I tried to pick the most cool tone one. A lot of more like neutral shades in their collection. So this interesting packaging, interesting, beautiful formula. So we'll see about that. I also pulled out this new Flower Beauty Honey Crush. These are their Gloss Crush lip serums. This one is my favorite. It's more like a rosy mauve, but I'm personally really liking the matte lipstick, especially with the more like shimmery eyes. We got a lot going on. So I think I'll bring it all together to just keep the lips matte. This was an interesting video, quite a fun one. I did get to share with you a lot of new makeup, revisit some things, try some new things. I really like the new Make Beauty liners. I don't know why I decided to use the one that's like sort of dried out. I hope that's not like a common thing with ones. Seems just like I got a dud because the rest of them are really beautiful. The gray shade especially, like just such pretty fun liners. I love that Make Beauty always makes things that are fun and colorful because we kind of lack that in the makeup space a little bit. But yeah, everything else was really fun to try on for this little rosy look. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will have another video on the screen here that YouTube thinks you're gonna like. So don't forget to keep hanging out with me and I'll see you over there. Bye.